Is it just us, or has the last stylebender been feeling generous lately? First, he opened the doors to a future matchup against the undefeated welterweight fighter Khamzat Chimaev, and now he expressed that he still wants that Jon Jones fight. Izzy had a lot to say about the fight though. He doesn't seem too worried or eager about it. Keep watching as we dish you the latest updates on the matchup. So, who called out who? Why is this important, you might ask? Well, in the UFC, it's a pretty big deal. Whoever calls you out apparently sees you as a threat. Initially, it was Jon Jones who called out Israel Adesanya, and that was probably his first mistake. After the call-out, Adesanya called Jon Jones a fan because he's basically looking for an opportunity to make some money. During an interview with TMZ, Adesanya said it was Jon Jones who first took my name. He put my name in his mouth first. He further expressed that when you're supposedly a GOAT, you don't go around calling people out. He called me out because he sees me as a threat. Unfortunately, Izzy lost his first and only fight in the light heavyweight division, and what's weird is that after the loss, Jones decided to take back his call-out, and that was probably his second mistake. It gave Adesanya an opportunity to tell everyone it was actually Jones that first started this feud, and now he's backing out. Anyway, Adesanya isn't too worried about Jon Jones, and while a win over the former light heavyweight champion will certainly look really impressive on Izzy's record, it isn't bothering him too much. Next, a want, not a need. Even after Jon Jones took back his call-out and shut down the idea of a fight, Adesanya was still up for the challenge. Adesanya claims that he doesn't need the fight for his legacy. He's already done enough, and to be honest, he's done a lot. He's a prime example of a fighter that started from the bottom and made it to the very top of the promotion. He's among the top 3 highest paid fighters in the UFC. He's defended his title 4 times, and not to mention, he also has a perfect record in the middleweight division. But still, just because he said he doesn't need the fight, it's not like he doesn't want it. He told TMZ that people think the fight is important for his legacy. He needs it. But no, Izzy thinks he doesn't need the fight, but he'll want it in the future because it's a challenge, and the last stylebender never shies away from a challenge. Up next, the wrong fights. Izzy also thinks that Jon Jones is stepping into the wrong fight. He thinks Jones still needs to find himself, and frankly speaking, that's some solid advice. The former light heavyweight champion has seen his life spiraling down in the last couple of years. He's been arrested multiple times for just dumb things. It's bad for his image and for the UFC as well. Adesanya further added that the right fight for Jon Jones at this point would be with his demons, and the man has a lot of demons. Izzy thinks Jones should be going to church and trying to figure himself out, so he stops messing up every time something good happens to his life or career. Jon Jones has been arrested 4 times, and not for minor offenses, but just plain out dumb things. Things you normally wouldn't expect from a professional fighter that represents his country and the sport. He's been arrested for driving under the influence, a hit-and-run felony, and a physical incident in a strip club. We have no clue when he'll actually step back into the octagon, but we're hoping he gets his life back on track soon because he's a truly gifted fighter. Fearless Adesanya. Now, we're already familiar with Adesanya's attitude inside the octagon. At UFC 236, Gastelum got the best of Adesanya after landing a sweet head kick that sort of wobbled the Kiwi. Gastelum had also done a pretty good job at landing some deadly shots, as we got to see a rare sight: Adesanya with a cut under his eye and nose along with a really bloody lip. In fights like these, most fighters pack the bag and don't think there's much left to do. My opponent has already landed some significant strikes, and I'm probably not going to get a knockout this late in the match. I'm probably going to lose. But not Adesanya. Before the start of the round, Adesanya was caught whispering to himself, "I'm prepared to die." That gives us goosebumps. We have a fighter that's prepared to die in the octagon before losing. Yeah, we already know Izzy is a rare and fearless fighter, so what's the point of all this? It's probably the fact that Izzy has a habit of one-upping every time someone calls him out. Now, considering the skill level of Jon Jones, the fighter would want him to be uncomfortable and make him drop some weight to fight in the middleweight division. But not Izzy. He told TMZ that Jon Jones was at his most dominant in the light heavyweight division, and that's why if we fight, it'll be in the light heavyweight class. That's a sign of a confident and fearless fighter right there. Now, in other related news, Askren thrashes Masvidal. We were always unsure about these two fighters, but if there's one thing we're sure about, it's that Askren and Masvidal will never be friends. It all started when Masvidal knocked out Askren with a flying knee, setting a record for the quickest knockout in UFC history. And when you think about it, that knee's probably the best highlight of Masvidal's career. And what's the best highlight of Askren's career? It's when he got knocked out by YouTuber Jake Paul. But still, the two fighters never get enough of going at each other. Masvidal threw some salt on Askren's wounds when he showed up at UFC 272 with a tattoo of his famous flying knee. He lost the match, but that tattoo though, right? And to think, Masvidal is one of the highest paid fighters in the UFC. Makes zero sense. Anyway, after his loss, Askren had a lot to say. He called Masvidal an average fighter. Considering the fact that Masvidal has has now lost 3 times in a row, Askren might actually be right. He further added that he got lucky with the knee, but apart from that, he's only won against average fighters. Each time he fights someone skillful, he gets embarrassed in the octagon. To be fair, Askren is probably upset because of the tattoo. And again, we don't mean to take anything away from Masvidal, but apart from having a marketable personality, he hasn't done much. Sometimes something so weird happens that it actually takes us a couple of minutes to realize that it actually happened. Can you imagine that one day Donald Trump will call Dana White irreplaceable? They say everyone is irreplaceable, but I don't think so. I don't think Dana White is replaceable. It isn't like Trump and Dana White don't have a good relationship. When Dana first acquired the almost dying UFC, Trump invited him to host some matches at the Trump Taj Mahal. And likewise, Dana White also endorsed Trump in 2016 at the Republican National Convention. He said Trump was one of the few supporters that backed the promotion during its darkest days. Some fighters also have a solid relationship with Trump, and that's majorly because they supported him during the election campaign. Anyway, Trump thinks that Dana White is irreplaceable for the UFC, and it'll be hard for someone to take over and do what he's doing. And he's right. Dana White has worked relentlessly to make the UFC what it is today. Despite all that, Dana White still needs to work on a lot of things though, with fighter wages at the top of the list. Lastly, Ngannou versus Jones. Even Kamaru Usman couldn't contain his excitement when talking about a potential fight between Ngannou and Jones. Before moving forward, let's get one thing out of the way. To take on Ngannou, you need to have that something special. Ngannou is a monster. He'll leave you unconscious with a single punch. And when you see him rushing towards you, you're bound to second think why you even got in the octagon with this monster. But Kamaru thinks Jones is up there with Ngannou. He's done a lot in his career and certainly has the technical skill to take on someone like Ngannou. That's not all. Kamaru was so excited thinking about the fight that he urged Dana White to make it happen and make it happen soon. He said he'd want it to happen in July, but we don't always get what we want, right? Let's not forget that Ngannou is out with an injury and will most probably return at the end of this year. And even when he returns, his contract will expire, and he has his eyes set on the Fury boxing match. It is a good fight to retain the heavyweight champion in the UFC, but we're doubtful it'll happen. That's it from our side, folks. So, do you think Adesanya versus Jones will ever happen? If so, who wins the fight? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.